Secret Meeting. The gates of the Castle of Thorns are closed only in times of war. They remain open as a symbol of the openness of the civil service, and a reminder that the people of Dawn are not afraid of strangers. This evening, someone stranger than usual wheeled through the great gates, between the thorn bushes that cover the walls and across the courtyard. Wrapped in heavy black robes, they moved with clear purpose, the wheels of their chair silent across the flagstones. They paused, briefly, perhaps to admire Igraine's tower, then mounted the ramp to the archway at its base. Passing through that arch, they stopped, waiting to be acknowledged. A young woman in her own dark-coloured robe startled to see the imposing figure in the bone mask. Her hand moved instinctively to the bells at her belt. A gesture from Scribe Orin, as he stood smoothly from behind his desk, stilled her fingers. She blushed. New as she was, fresh from the seminary at Necropolis, the young magister should have known better. Orin bowed politely to the figure in the archway. "You are welcome here," he said. He spoke calmly, confidently. His eyes scanned the figure quickly, taking in the details, and he made an assumption. "I hope that your journey from the Silent Lands has been swift, and that you might leave a little of the wisdom you bring with you behind when you return." The herald inclined its own head in turn, its features hidden by the long-snouted bone mask and the woolen cowl. Without further delay, they rolled onwards, leaving for the conclave offices. "I'm sorry," began the novice. "It was just habit." "Do not worry about it," said Orin with a tight smile. "It happens, and it's not as if you rang the exorcist's bells at a servant of the Great Wolf of Winter, is it? Everyone makes mistakes, and honestly, the first time I was confronted by one of the heralds of the Silent Kingdom, well, let's just say it was some years before my mentor stopped reminding me about it. Now, let's go over the figures again and try not to worry about what business their kind has with the prefects of the conclave. Overview. Every season, each of the 6 archmages may send a single plenipotentiary message to an Eternal of their realm. The Eternals are bound to respond, although not always in a way the archmage may wish. Following the autumn equinox, 6 Eternals have responded to invitations to parley via their emissaries. There is also an internal matter, relating to the way the archmage power of plenipotentiary is used. Following a matter raised by priests in the Imperial Synod, the prefects have prepared notes on a service they could provide if the conclave wished, for any archmage who chose to make use of it. Fire Mage. It is fortuitous, perhaps, that during the autumn equinox an enchantment was laid across the lands of Dawn by the coven of Phoenix Rising. The serendipitously named Golden Magician's Fair creates a kind of invitation for the heralds of the Summer Realm to visit that nation. Alongside the servants of the other lords and ladies of the glorious kingdoms, shortly before the winter solstice, a single messenger from the domain of the Lord of Summer Stars appears at the Castle of Thorns with a message for the Archmage of Summer. Ethod is a petite herald with hair of living gold and eyes that glitter with the light of falling stars. They are accompanied by a single guard, a massive creature of fire and rock that is, according to Ethod, a prince of the Skyborn. There is crisis in the domain of the lake and the island. The Golden Enchanter is sealed within the Tower of Stars, unreachable by his apprentices and allies. The gates that lead from the domain of Maraud are closed, and save for the combination of Archmage's plenipotentiary and Dawnish enchantment, none of the kin of Foxwise would have been able to come to the mortal world. Ethod bears grim tidings. There is chaos in the realm of the Master of Wand and Staff. The details are difficult to put into words, but the Eternal is failing. The light that burns atop the tower in the lake flickers and threatens to go out completely. Thanks to the Archmage of Summer, however, a message has been delivered. In accordance with the rules of parley, Ethod brings that message on behalf not only of Maraud, but all of those who live beneath the shadow of the tower. The Lord of the Lake is under attack and needs aid. He requires his apprentices to recover certain powerful items that he has created and return them to him so that he can draw on their power to give him sufficient strength to break free from the snare that holds him. Without these items, the golden magician will fall, his tower fall into ruin, and a rival rise to claim his staff and his crown. Ethod's words are riddle-like, as if the herald themselves does not entirely understand the meaning of them. The apprentices of Maraud know that they have no right to ask for these items to be returned. They were given as gifts to the Empire, and the Golden Magician has no dominion over them any more. Nor can the Lord of the Lake offer anything for their return beyond his gratitude. The snare that binds him leaves him weak and unable to reach beyond the walls of his tower. There are 5 items the Lord of the Lake is seeking. The Staff of the Storms and Mask of the Geyser, given by Maraud to the people of Urizen, forming part of the regalia of the Churnspire Adjutor. With their strength returned, Maraud may be able to shatter the snare that holds him. The ritual text of Golden Trumpets, a rite given to the Empire some years ago that allows the trumpeteers of Maraud, Asoni, Gudenstem, Donna, Ivihriva, Kerix, Gwynthaf, to be summoned. Ethod does not know who has it, but hopes beyond hope that it is in the possession of an Imperial magician. With the scroll, Maraud will be able to call those irresistible servants to his aid and send his voice beyond the tower to rally his allies. The Ring of Unbelievable Magic, crafted as a gift for a friend, holds an ember of Maraud's irresistible strength within it. With it he can reclaim enough of his power to strike against the one who attacks him and break their grasp. The Ring of the Rainbow Sage, created as a reward for a brave soul, which holds a fragment of Maraud's wisdom within it. If it is returned to him, he will be able to quiet the gyre of madness that threatens to consume his will and turn him into an agent of his own destruction. There are other things that Maraud has made over the years, says Ethod, and while the Sage of the Sapphire Cloak has not called for them specifically in his desperate communication to his servants, every little bit of aid in this matter would be a help. Even if their potence has faded, the items themselves might still serve a purpose, if they are returned to the Summer Mage freely and with gratitude. During the winter solstice, one of Maraud's apprentices will come to the Hall of Worlds and there meet with the Summer Archmage, and hopefully those who bear the treasures Maraud has asked for. Before leaving the Castle of Thorns, Ethod cautions that there are those who would rather see Maraud lost, trapped forever in his tower, consumed by the gyre that swirls around him, so that they might rise in his stead. The Skyborn bodyguard that accompanies Ethod is not there to impress the Empire, but to ensure the apprentice delivers their message and returns to the domain of Lake and Star safely. Beware treachery and ambition, says Ethod, before sadly returning to the realm from which they came. Forest Queen. Shortly after the autumn equinox, a magistrate is called to the Imperial Regio. Something has emerged, and the nearby Highborn have raised the alarm. When Neem Farkas arrives, she finds a little herald, reminiscent of an ambulatory tree or bush. It is delicately drawing a stream of water from a pile of fallen leaves, and humming a weird song to itself. When Magistrate Farkas makes herself known, she is greeted with a careful and deliberate bow, accompanied by a sound like the creaking of an ancient oak in a storm. This is the Watcher of the Fragrant Leaves, herald of she who spreads as rampant green, and it is responding to a message from the Imperial Archmage of the Primal Forest. In quick succession, the herald tells the magistrate and the onlookers of matters its mistress is not interested in. The Druge, escorted to Broceliande, were fleeing the slaughter of their fellows in the barrens, nothing more. They prevailed on the Green Mother to aid them, and she gave them that aid, just as she sometimes does for her imperial allies. She does not help them codify magic, or at least no more than she helps imperial magicians to do so. She prefers the company of some Druge to many Imperials, because the orcs of the Malum understand that the shackles of civilization are a poison that weakens body and soul. She will not escort the Navarre into Broceliande. The children of Teruniel are far more than capable of doing that themselves, and the deep wild has no interest in that. She will not move a Valorn heart. She has no interest in helping create a college of magic. The Empire spurned the heart of the Tempest, and she will not offer it again. She has no idea what a well of shadows is, and is not interested in gifts of chaos fruit or mana or the like. What does interest Barkspawner is the Archmage's claim that the Empire intends to connect the Valorn hearts and complete the great work of the Teruniel. With that in mind, the herald details several boons her mistress has chosen to offer to imperial magicians prepared to ignore the conclave and deal with the Font of the Green. These offers are explained in more detail in the Gifts of a Green Mother companion wind of fortune. Magistrate Farkas is at pains to remind the conclave that it is illegal to accept a boon from an Eternal under the enmity of the conclave. Anyone, including the Archmage themselves, who takes one of Yornagra's boons is committing a serious crime. Even if that were not the case, all enchantments cast on the entire Empire are also illegal. While the Conclave might endorse the plan to waken the trees of Broceliande, doing so with the use of an object provided by an enemy Eternal would still be a crime, and would lead to an investigation of those involved. The only way to avoid that outcome would be to remove enmity from the Eternal, for long enough to claim the boon as a minimum. The Watcher of Fragrant Leaves makes it clear to Magistrate Farkas that these legal problems are of no concern to the Queen of the Forest. If mortal beings want to complicate their own lives with such inane restrictions, that is their own lookout. Its messages delivered, the strange little tree creature bows once again and leaves. Empty throne. The bone-faced, heavy-robed heralds of the Hungry Wolf are not common visitors to the Castle of Thorns, but those who have worked there long recognize them instantly. The Empty One's servant, Ossium, brings a response to Archmage Ematius' petition. Their king has been moved by the Archmage's tone, appreciated Ematius' decision to make use of the gifts of the chastising touch, and is looking forward to the gift of Dragonbone. Consequently, there will be a formal parley in the Hall of Worlds, albeit with a significant list of requirements. The parley will take place at 9:30 on the Saturday evening of the winter solstice. It will take the servants of the empty chamber some time to prepare a space for the coming of the Tomb King and his heralds. Ossium is confident that Conclave will conclude in a timely fashion, or at the very least vacate the third of the hall nearest to the portal to the realms from 9 in the evening so that preparations can be made. Once preparations are completed, to the satisfaction of the Lord of the Bone-White Throne, the Archmage will introduce the following. 1. To speak for the Pale Ravens. How came they to claim the boon of Gundar the Unshackled, and what do they know of them? 1. To speak for the Nation's Guard, holders of the Testament of Asafa. This one must deem themselves ready to judge others and testify as to how well those others understand the winds of suffering that blow through the silent kingdom. 1. To speak for the coven that once ran in dawn, and named themselves whelps. Do they wish to bring the Empty One's power to Varushka? They should bring with them one known as Lunette de Circle to discuss a curse. 1. To explain how rumours about the Basalt Citadel were started, and to perhaps learn the truth of it. 3. Who believe they bear the heart of Elaine Silverlark, ready to tell why they think they deserve to learn more. They must come unarmoured and without weapons. The Empty One is a king, after all. Along with the Archmage, those chosen, and only those chosen, may step across the threshold into the space of parley, alongside the heralds and the Archmage. Each will speak with a herald, under the watchful gaze of the empty throne. Provided they are prepared to endure the test the servant of the Bone Crown offers to them, they may gain answers. All others may watch and listen. If chosen by the Archmage, they might also speak, but there will be no discourse on any other subjects than those named above. In silence. As to the rest, the King of Bones will not provide heart's blood to the Archmage at this time. If they do not wish to rely on the whimsical beneficence of the Court of Malice, then they should simply not. Crystal Manor works just as well as heart's blood, and Sorin has no interest at this time in providing convenience. Likewise, when it comes to proposals for the sign of Tamar, the Empire has already assessed that place and found ways it might be used. In at least one case, to create heart's blood, in fact. Sorin has no interest right now in presenting anything else. He is just as happy to see the sign fall into ruin as he is to have it preserved. With the matter of appraisal raised, the Lord of the Monolith is interested in one of the Archmage's requests. He is prepared to send one of the architects of the Tomb City to the Empire, should the Imperial Conclave genuinely desire his aid. That architect will examine a single fortification over the coming season, and provide a single proposal as to how that structure might be improved. Ossium is careful to stress that this means improved in the eyes of the Lord of the Barren Waste and his court, rather than simply made better. Alternatively, the Master of Whelps will send one of his Houndmasters to assess a single Imperial army, to consider how their defensive capabilities might be strengthened. Again, any improvement they propose will be in line with the precepts of the Winter Realm. He will, however, only do one, and only if the Conclave petitions and provides suitable tribute. If the Conclave wishes to accept the aid of the Tomb King, they must agree precisely which fortification or army they will ask Sorin's lieutenant to appraise in a declaration of acceptance. The one who raises that declaration will be responsible for providing a gift to the Dry Hand, 160 drams of true vervain. If both criteria are met, Sorin's representative will provide details of the boon they are offering at the spring equinox. Out of character note, the player who raises a successful declaration of acceptance should ensure the 160 true vervain are handed in to God by the end of the event, and email plot@profouндecisions.co.uk to let us know the price has been paid. With their messages delivered, Ossium departs, noting that they are unlikely to be at the parley themselves, having pressing engagements elsewhere. They are certain their fellow heralds will be just as agreeable to citizens of the Empire as they are. Endless ringing. Over the last 3 months there have been reports of emissaries of the Autumn realm appearing in both the northwest and southeast of the Empire, apparently at the behest of the Archmage of Autumn, via their proxy Ashbourne Trosk. In each case, they spend some time examining the lay of the land, and then deliver proposals on behalf of the organizations they represent, and their mistress, the Forge Unending. In the northwest, several assayers from the Architects of Iron and Stone appear, in Scarsind and Semasuak, and set about exploring the mountains between the two nations. Most recently, heralds belonging to this guild were involved in devising methods to improve and protect imperial bourse seats. This time they appear to be evaluating the damage done by the Jotun to Buchanan's Pass, and how it might be repaired and the pass reopened. As the winter solstice arrives, the assayers provide not only their findings, but an offer from a fellow guild, the House of Fire and Flame, to actually take on the contract of clearing the pass with their powerful explosive tools. You can find more about their proposal in the Hammers and Boxes companion Wind of Fortune. In the southeast, a single herald belonging to the Coalition of Stone and Struggle has paid a visit to Southern Spiral. This emissary of Shikal is a sturdy, almost square creature, as wide across the shoulders as it is tall, with tree-trunk limbs and wrapped in heavy iron. It spends time examining the ground along the coast, studying the road progress already made on Kerstag's Way, and occasionally talking with the labourers undertaking this monumental task. After several weeks, during which the herald avoids talking to anyone other than the workers themselves, they appear without warning in Apulian, rap smartly on the doors of the palace, and wait patiently to be admitted. They have several proposals relating to the timely completion of the road, and some requests that might have wider implications for the League in particular. You can also read about the proposals relating to the road in the Hammers and Boxes companion Wind of Fortune. It seems that the Archmage has requested assistance from the City of Fire and Stone, and that the citizens of the Fire Mountain have set about providing their aid, rather than proposing a formal parley with the Archmage. Ceaseless Struggle. The familiar figure of Agon, herald of the Master Strategist, emerges from the Imperial Regio at the midpoint between the equinox and solstice. As usual, Agon comes alone, and is polite and friendly, if a little distant. They bear a response from the Hunter of Tides to the Archmage of Day. The Tidekeeper chooses not to meet with Imperial magicians at the upcoming winter solstice. This is no reflection on the Archmage's words, and he thanks her for doing what he asked when last she spoke to him. It is merely that advancing the Archmage's goals is best achieved by action, rather than another meeting so soon. To that end, his emissaries have evaluated and assessed the strategies and tactics of the Jotun in the Mornwold, and especially the ambitions and character of the Jarl of the Morn, Hakon. With the insight gained, they are able to pinpoint an opportunity for Imperial heroes to confront the Jarl outside the protection of Farstrider's watch. Their assessment is that the Sentinel Gate provides a conjunction that may be used to achieve the Archmage's goal. The Imperial prognosticators have compiled a report, in conjunction with several polemarchs of the General of Day, which is to be presented to the Military Council at the coming summit. The second matter the Archmage has asked about, the magical fortification at Graven Rock, presents no such opportunity, however. On the other hand, the weapon-wise is apparently very pleased with the deportment of the Marcher generals, with General Amberlin and General Stanley in particular, but not only them. The Marcher oaths to put the defence of their people first in their strategies speak very well of them, and of their understanding of the purpose of war. It is not much in the grand scheme of things, but Zakalwe is minded to recognise their commitment with a small gift. He asks that the Archmage speak with each of the 4 generals of the marches, and acquire from them an armament, suit of armour, shield, or keepsake, as best reflects their temperament, along with an idea of what personal boon would aid them. If these items are delivered to the Hall of Worlds during the arcane colloquium, then Zakalwe will return them the next morning with a suitable property, appropriate to a warrior. These are gifts for the individuals, not for the armies. They will not help directly in the war against the Jotun, but serve rather as a token of the Eternal's support for their actions. In the last matter, the shimmering tactician gently suggests that the Archmage has underestimated how heartening the people of the Morn find it when their generals make good on their promises. Yet he has a proposal for the magicians and landskeepers of the marches. There is a certain ritual that was created with the aid of Zakalwe. Carve the Crystal Guardian. It can provide a significant boost to the ability of any army, and presents a way for magicians versed in day lore to help their people. For the duration of the winter solstice, any marcher mana site that is transformed with the ritual and supports a marcher army will receive a small boon. Rather than losing all production from their mana site over the season, they will receive 2 pawns of prismatic ink at the spring equinox, gathered from their mana site as if it were mana. Unseen curators. No civil servant is sure when the painting appears amongst their papers, but Jorgen spends some time stretching it over a wooden frame and hanging it up. The painting is formed from iridescent ink upon stark, blackened canvas. Once unfurled, it shows 5 beings together holding a scroll aloft. The image is made of many tiny letters which spell out a message. The night after the message is first read, the painting disappears as suddenly and silently as it arrived, leaving only its empty frame. All those who even glimpse the painting, however, are able to recall its message in perfect detail. The Whisper Gallery consent to a meeting with the Archmage of Night. They state that all those who should be present will be made aware of the time and location, and any others who wish to attend are welcome to join should they discover those details themselves. They reject a formal parley, on the basis that they wish all citizens to be able to speak freely. There is a certain coyness about the matters that may be discussed with the Archmage. They refer only to a comparison of rumour and scandal. Their intent goes beyond a simple discussion of political matters. The painting contains an invitation to all imperial citizens to participate in a gallery of artworks which they intend to showcase during the meeting. The Concilium of the Perjured Throne wish to present some of their own treasured collection, alongside pieces by the Empire's own artists. All such artworks contributed to the gallery should communicate a secret or rumour. They emphasize that the secrets need not belong to the artists themselves, but could be something they have discovered, and wish to be shared with anyone who can interpret the art sufficiently. These artworks may be paintings, sculptures, or even poetry or written words, as long as they are presented in a visually appealing or arresting manner. The quality of the secret or rumour contained within is the most important aspect, and those who create artworks that reflect especially succulent secrets will be rewarded. The Whisper Gallery have not directly explained what defines the succulence of a secret, but it is widely assumed that the more dramatic and shocking a secret or rumour, the more delicious they are likely to find it. Artwork to be submitted to this gallery of secrets should be sent by opening a portal at the Imperial Regio before the end of the Friday of the winter solstice. It is the intent of the Whisper Gallery that art presented by imperial citizens will be returned to them. This is alone to help create a suitable atmosphere for the discussing of secrets, rather than a gift in any legal sense. The magistrates, to put it mildly, have eyebrows raised at this entire business, but for the moment cautiously express the opinion that allowing an eternal under enmity to present one's art is probably not a crime, as long as one is not a sorcerer. At least, as long as such takes place under the aegis of the Archmage's parley. They do remind everyone, however, that accepting gifts or boons from the Whisper Gallery in return for anything, even a loan of your art, would be a crime and prosecuted as such. Have a little faith. There is one other matter of note relating to the Archmages and their power of plenipotentiary, although it arises from a fundamentally mundane source rather than anything to do with the realms. During the autumn equinox, Brother Geoffrey Orchard raised a judgment relating to the use of plenipotentiary. As noted, following this sanction, there is absolutely no legal requirement for any imperial title to keep copies of their correspondence, nor to make their correspondence available to anyone else. However, there may be mechanisms available that allow an archmage to voluntarily present the words of their plenipotentiary, such that imperial magicians may know what they contain. The prefects of the conclave have discussed the matter with their civil service peers, and present a potential solution to Brother Orchard's concerns. Any civil servant can note down the contents of a plenipotentiary missive and ensure they are included alongside the declarations that are made available to every magician in the Empire. This would, however, have to be absolutely voluntary on behalf of the individual archmage, and they will not attempt to do so without the approval of the Imperial Conclave. As such, they have presented a sample wording for a declaration of concord. Conclave instructs the prefects to assist any archmage who requests it to make the contents of their plenipotentiary available to their fellow imperial magicians. If this declaration is raised and supported by the conclave, then the archmages will gain the ability to make the wording of their plenipotentiary missive public, if they wish to do so. As soon as this matter is mooted, there is a flurry of communication from several Eternals. Representatives of Basilia and the Whisper Gallery make it apparent that they will not provide assistance to any plenipotentiary that took advantage of this offer. On the other hand, all the Eternals of the Day Realm, with the exception of Cynokinon and Cold Sun, have let it be known that if this power existed, they would only respond positively to plenipotentiaries that were transparently shared with Imperial magicians. How this will work. If the conclave passes this declaration, then any archmage would in character show their message to a member of the civil service before sending it. In practice, this would just require the archmage to out of character write at the bottom of their plenipotentiary that they wanted it shared with the Empire. This would not count against the word limit of their plenipotentiary. When the Wind of Fortune dealing plenipotentiary responses was published, it would include the actual text of that plenipotentiary alongside the response from the Eternal. This is, however, an all-or-nothing proposition. The entire wording of the actual plenipotentiary would be included. It would not be possible to exclude part of the missive or present an alternative wording. We can't phys-rep having a civil servant present at the precise moment that an archmage makes use of their power of plenipotentiary to make a carbon copy of the message before it is sent, but in theory, the Empire ought to be able to do that. From a game design perspective, the power is only a positive for the game if the plenipotentiary that is published across the Empire is identical to the plenipotentiary that the Eternal sees. It would not be possible to stipulate that an archmage must use this power if it is available. How an archmage interacts with this power might be raised during a declaration of candidacy, for example, but it cannot be made a legal requirement of the plenipotentiary power that the missive be shared. The power to speak to Eternals belongs to the archmage, and it is up to them to determine how it is used.